You are a ranger. You find your way easily. There's no need to roll. Well, I guess I just sit here then. Hey, D&D DMs, stop doing this. You've just gone and optimized away a whole load of fun. You've robbed your players, admittedly politely. It feels realistic to say that the expert can just do stuff, no questions asked. When someone plays as a ranger or a rogue or any sort of specialist, saying that they just succeed automatically is great for speeding things along. But by deciding that the character is just too good to be rolling dice for the situation you've set up, you're denying your players an interesting challenge. One thing that makes D&D and other TTRPGs fun is the stories we get to tell, which come about through those interesting challenges. My name's Rich, this is Renegade Rolls, and I figured out a better way. Let's look at what you can do about this problem, why verisimilitude matters here, and why hand-waving of easy rolls feels bad. Also that you can make the specialist player characters feel special at your table. So your player wants their character to feel cool and competent, and they want to roll lots of dice. What are you going to do about it? There are two keys to this. First is to let your specialist PCs attempt things no one else would even contemplate. The second is to change what failure looks like. Instead of a no, it's a yes, but. When the ranger rolls to forage, you can still give them a relatively high target number. Success should be that they come back to camp with a super rare mushroom, which allows the wizard to brew a cool potion. In most settings, getting enough to eat probably isn't going to be a core problem for the group. They've got dragons to slay and gods to usurp. Finding food is the part of a ranger's life which is generally okay to handwave, but you can still have fun with it. Get them to roll on a random table of tasty treats and cool discoveries that they can bring back to camp. Making these rolls and letting the player narrate them is a great opportunity for them to describe exactly how something is achieved, but you may find your player just is not super knowledgeable about their character's skills. For example, a monk might have a crazy high acrobatics score. What can you do as player or as DM to describe just how cool that looks? Watch some parkour footage with the sound off and try and commentate on what's going on. You'll realise quickly that you don't know the terminology to explain what's happening. That's a cool jump. Ooh, oh, roly-poly. I swear this guy's a cat in disguise. I fell down a bit of a click hole with this stuff and now know my parkour Kong jumps from my tic-tacs, but the language used might sound a bit modern for your medieval fantasy. So I've put together a list of cool parkour moves along with descriptions in more natural language on handy little index cards, along with lots of other expert skills, which you can copy, you can print and have behind your DM screen to impress your players with your infinite knowledge. If you sign up to the Renegade Rolls Patreon. You'll also find interviews with all sorts of cool people, behind-the-scenes updates, long-form versions of my actual play games, and a super secret corner of my Discord server where you get first dibs on any of the online games that I run. So say you have a high-level barbarian that needs to push down a door. Make them roll a strength athletics check as normal with a relatively high DC. If they succeed, you can describe how they engage their core, push through their legs while exhaling as the entire wall comes away with them. Or they straight up flatten the kobolds listening at the other side of the keyhole. If they fail, well, this is where yes, but comes into play. Yes, we can skip through absolutely trivial stuff. It doesn't feel good to have to roll to walk across a room without stubbing your toe. There's a very real risk of your game turning into slapstick if you go down this road. Rolling with a super low target number doesn't feel great either. You're setting your players up to feel bad if they fail at something which they were expecting to succeed. It's satisfying to roll just high enough to beat improbable odds. It's disappointing when you fail, but you move on. It feels fine, I suppose, when you succeed with a 2 on the dice. But it's just embarrassing to fail at something straightforward. So don't put your players in that second scenario at all if you can help it. The trick with this is to reframe failure not as you do not do the thing, but as an excuse for you as DM to add complications. The complications are what can make your scenario much more interesting. A good general thing to remember on this if you want your characters to feel heroic is that low rolls should be due to the world rather than character incompetence. This gives the perfect opportunity for external complications to arise. So what sort of rolls should you be asking your players for? You should aim for the outcome to be impactful, but for a failure to still progress the story. For a ranger, that would mean that a failed survival check to navigate rarely means the group makes no progress. It means that things get more difficult for the party as a result. Each of these tests coming up is likely to have a 50% chance of success. Level 1. Find your way through the old forest. DC 15. Failure means that the wolves see you before you see them. Level 3. Find your way through the cursed forest. DC 16. Failure means that something ancient is watching you, and you might not know it. Level 8. Find your way through an underwater cave system full of undead sharks to the lost treasure of Salty Nick. DC 18. Failure means that you cut your foot on a rock. Not badly, you don't lose hit points, but you discover the shark's sense of smell is even better than it was in life, and they're all coming for you. Roll for initiative. Level 15. Find your way through the eternal, writhing mass of flesh to the throne room of Baal, the god of murder. DC 20. Failure means that when you touch the ground to try and sense a heartbeat, the place listens to you. It will remember you forever. Level 20. Find your way through the eternal darkness of the murder hobo rogue's soul. To find the real treasure was the friends who made along the way. DC 30. Failure means you ask, is the rogue made of darkness? Or is the darkness made of rogue? You scream, for you do not know. Reserve a total failure. In this case, you are lost for a natural 1. In a difficult environment, this should always be a possibility, but keeping it to a 1 in 20 chance feels fair to me. Other systems embrace complications and make them into a core part of the game. If you're curious, go check out Ironsworn, which is free on DriveThruRPG, linked below, for a masterclass in how making things more difficult for the PCs can drive the narrative. After about level 3, our heroes are going to be masters of their chosen crafts. Compared to most folks, they're going to be a pretty big deal. This table from Dungeon Crawl Classics is such a good reminder of just how rare heroes are. To keep verisimilitude, the PC's reputation should precede them, and owners of nice bank vaults would certainly take note and adapt if a known master thief is in town. When you're world building and thinking about how the people in a location might react to the PCs, ask yourself, who would be happy to see them, and who most certainly wouldn't? Would the high-level cleric in the party get invited to give a sermon to the congregation of their faith, or would the local clergy be intimidated and seek to undermine their legitimacy in the eyes of others? All this will help the PCs feel like experts and noteworthy people within the world. It's interesting how often in games you see high-level characters treated like nobodies in a local tavern. Like, imagine if Harry Houdini, Bear Grylls and Beyoncé all walked into a bar. They wouldn't get a moment's peace for a quiet drink. I like my games to run fast. I made a whole series of videos about how to speed up each aspect of play, linked below, but for the players, there's no sense of achievement if you handwave stuff. Even if you describe them ascending to dizzying new heights of excellence, it still seems less impressive than if they feel they had to work for it. If you've ever played in competitive sports, did you feel good when your opponent resigned or was a no-show? We value things which we think are difficult. I remember as a kid climbing Snowdon in Wales. It was a long walk that took all day. But there's also a funicular railway that goes up the other side to the top where there's a cafe and a gift shop. I was super proud of my gently passive-aggressive t-shirt that said, I climbed Snowdon the hard way. You can show expertise by letting the players share just how much effort the character puts into the task. You can also make the consequence of failure very clear as well. If something is a close-run thing, the skill is more appreciated than if it was super easy. So how would an expert fail? Well, it's going to be different to an amateur failing. When an expert fails, they can usually tell you why. It will rarely be for a lack of skill, and more often to do with the external environment, or the thing that they were attempting just was an ill-conceived plan in the first place where they didn't have complete information on the problem they were trying to solve. For a rogue lockpicking, this could be a particularly ingenious lock disguised to look like something simpler. You might suddenly be world building again and say, well, whoever did this clearly had something important to hide. But a ranger navigating the wilds, the weather changing could be a reason why finding their way becomes impossible. Traveling in a storm or thick fog is dangerous enough in our world. In a fantasy world, who knows what might be lurking out there? As well as a DM handwaving certain tests because they seem too easy, there are also spells in the game which can cause some challenges to feel just trivial. Depending on what you think the interesting problems will be for your players, it's worth reviewing the spell and feat lists and potentially banning some which will make life just too easy. For a ranger, I'd be looking at Great Food and Water, Goodberry and Leomund's Tiny Hut. Each of these take away some of the challenge of survival in a hostile environment, and might feel like you're robbing your little overachiever of the chance to feel cool. Do you know who else is a little overachiever? It's you there. You're watching niche Dungeon Master advice videos. To really up your game in terms of showing the PC's expertise, learn about what real-life experts do. Maybe with private browsing turned on, if you're learning about rogue stuff. Some real-world achievements are insane. Feats of strength, feats of endurance, feats of memory, ridiculous heists. A real person probably maxes out at about level 10 in D&D, so extrapolate some of these real-world characters to epic proportions at high level. This will make your descriptions better as you'll have something to reference, and you'll be able to give new possibilities to your players. Having said that, you won't always be able to find the moments to spotlight these characters within the main thrust of the story, but I've got another tool in my DM's utility belt that might be just the thing. Flashbacks let you dive into a character's past, let your players live through the events that you've been world building, and let everyone see the game from a different perspective. I'll see you next time, or in the past, in a flashback.